This week we're here in Tasmania to learn about what it's like to helm a major political party in the state, as well as what it takes to lead the people of Tasmania. The leadership qualities people hold to certain leaders can vary from person to person, but can often be quite different to what the actual practices of being in such a position truly are. So let's see what people perceive as a great leader.
Courage,
honesty,
mainly those who practice what they preach.
assuring what they've placed in their policy is followed through.
the capacity to listen, to have empathy, but also the strength to convince people of the rightness of the path that you're going down.
We don't always have the opportunity to see them practice what they preach, so sometimes it's a risk. We just have to take them for what they say.
Clearly, there are a lot of perceptions of what it takes to be a political leader. Rebecca White was leader of the Labor Party for 7 years. To find out what it's like to be the leader of a major party in government, we don't need to look any further. What leadership qualities have you found were useful throughout your tenure as party leader?
I have definitely found being able to understand people is probably the most important thing. I also didn't ask enough help of other people, which was the wrong approach to have. And I just encourage people, if you feel like you don't have an answer, don't pretend. And that changed the way that I led my team. It helped me better understand other people, it helped me make better informed decisions, it helped me understand history, to reflect on what had happened previously, to think about what I should do next. Certainly understanding people, understanding what motivates people is probably the key thing that I learnt and probably didn't learn early enough.
Political leaders can define their success through being elected and achieving their goals, though a lot of these goals consist of changing laws. To find out the role law plays in becoming a successful leader, we discuss this further with law professor Jan McDonald from the University of Tasmania, as she will help explain the difficulties of achieving goals set out by party leaders.
I've taught a whole range of different subjects over many years, but my particular expertise is in environmental and climate law. I've also written quite a few reports that got completely buried when the government changed, when there was an election and there was a change of government and the political priorities of the government changed.
By no means is it easy to pass legislation through Parliament.
It can be really hard to get legislation through, because not only do you need to convince the majority members in the House of Assembly, you also have to convince the majority members in the Legislative Council. Some of the longest debates I've been involved with have gone until 4 or 5 in the morning, where you've been going from 10 o'clock that day in the chamber, being at work probably from 7:30, and you've just gone all the way through debating different aspects of legislation. So nothing goes through Parliament unless there's a majority support for it in both chambers, so it can take quite a while sometimes.
The process behind creating policies can be different for every instance, especially when politicians have different priorities.
When national and state government seeks your advice on something, it really depends on whether or not it's the department wanting to get a full range of views, or whether there is a really strong political appetite with the minister to actually deliver change.
In terms of developing policy, that work happens talking to stakeholders to see where the demand is, see where the problems are, how do we solve them, what's realistic, what's challenging, because ultimately you want to be able to implement it, not just make a lofty promise that doesn't ever actually have a realistic chance of being delivered. But also it comes down to your relationships and the ability to negotiate in the Parliament with your colleagues, whether or not your leadership skills are good enough that they go with your opinion on things, or whether they're going to second guess you. The interesting thing about being a Member of Parliament is that your role fundamentally is about making laws. And I don't have a legal background, so for me, this is something I've had to learn about the job too.
But how does that affect implementing different policies and laws through Parliament?
I don't think that you need to have a legal background to become a politician. The law trains you to think in a very particular way, and having different ways of thinking, bringing different knowledge, different experiences, different perspectives, I think is incredibly important.
Rebecca White has a very different set of day-by-day routines to lead up to such an election. What would an average day consist of in the lead up to the election?
So for me, a typical day would start with a 7:30 meeting talking about what I'm doing that day. The staff would have started a meeting far earlier than that, but they didn't require me to be involved because before then I'm usually getting the kids sort of ready to go to school. So there might be a breakfast event that I had to attend as the leader, or I might be doing something else in the electorate before standing up to do my main media for the day, usually mid-morning. And then I would normally head into a lunch event or a function where I'd be doing something else involved with campaign activity. The afternoons I would normally spend in my own electorate or supporting another candidate.
Leadership is key to spreading a party's policies, being successful in a party, and listening to all of Tasmanians when going into an election. After 7 years as party leader, it however never resulted in Rebecca White getting the ultimate job of Premier of Tasmania. So to be able to lead the people in Tasmania at state level, we have to ask ourselves once more, what leadership qualities do people look for in leaders?
I think they look for somebody who acts with integrity and does what they say they're going to do and is a decent person. So listening, caring for others, showing compassion and empathy, I think those are also very important qualities.
Tasmania is a place which has great people. It has great environments, landscapes, great culture, and has a democratic system which requires people to use great leadership skills to become the best political leader they can be. Hopefully this documentary has taught you the practices of what being a political leader in Tasmania is like. So from here in Tasmania, the world has been turned.